Now we will review the questions together for module number 2 and 3. This quiz, which we will review it now, it's mix and match between domain 2 and domain 3. What is the most important feature of SIM? All of you answered correctly. That's good. Of course, correlation. Correlation, it is the most important because by using proper correlation, this will help to understand if there is any attack happen to your network. What are the CSP data center infrastructure components? We mentioned in the data center components, we have, if you can remember the diagram, we have the physical network. Then we, physical, I mean environment. Then we have the network. Then we have computing. Then we have the virtualization, storage, and then virtualization. These are the components. Prem here answered right. Don't mention Hyper-V, Prem, because Hyper-V, this is a product, it's not a technology. Hyper-V, it's Microsoft virtualization. Is virtualization, because maybe VMware or maybe anything else.
Okay.
Physical and logical components, no. Network switches, AC, water system. Okay, but these again, they are the subcomponents. But the answer from Brim, it was the accurate one, that you have the physical infrastructure or physical environment, networking, computing, storage, then virtualization. What is the important for CSP data center? What is more important for CSP data center, internal or external redundancy? Both are important. Both, it depends on data center. No, it does not depend upon anything. Both of them are important. Both of them are important. And I mentioned here for cloud service provider, when whatever any component which it will not be redundant and it will not be able to support the service requirements, it will be a failure, even if it's external or internal. Then both of them are very important for us. This is the reason why in the CCSP material you will find that they kept a figure, and they mentioned on the right-hand side internal redundancy and on the left-hand side external redundancy, as we saw it yesterday. Mention important CSP redundancy data center internal and external components. Okay. The answer of Raj and Bem are closest to the right ones. SDN, it is not for redundancy at all. SDN, it's not redundancy. We mentioned the SDN when we spoke about the type of networks, and we said that the SDN, it is recommended because it is more secure, because it split the management data from the user data. This is the reason. When this is not related, it is not related to redundancy at all. Sanat also, he gave a good points. Look, gentlemen, here, fortunately, we have the CCSP exam is multiple choice. When you don't have to think, just read. When whatever any component it will affect the network, it will be important. Whatever any component. We will start from the data center, AC, power usage, I mean power sources, power distribution units, internal network, external network, switches, infrastructures, and so on. Which network infrastructure is more secure? I think all of you answered correctly, and this is the right answer. What is the definition of reservations? Aha, this is very important. minimum guaranteed available reserve for this is the right answer. Make sure the availability of reserve for a particular time, place, availability zones. No, it is not related to zones. It's not related to anything. This, it is guarantee availability of minimum resources for the cloud service customer. Guarantee minimum level of resources for cloud service customer. Minimum number of instances to be available all time. Okay, but I don't like to say instances because يعني resources it will be better, but it's okay. يعني it's okay. It's minimum resource that may be guaranteed. Okay, that's fine. Limits the quota allocated. Limits place a certain threshold cap in usage of that resource function. Yes, that's right. This, it will be the maximum utilization of resources or the maximum resources which it can be utilized. And yesterday we explained why this it will be a benefit, especially in protecting the cloud service provider against any attacks. What is the definition of shares? Share is resource being used shared jointly. You are right, صح? Don't know. Share is utilized for multi-tenancy. Okay, as we mentioned, share this, it will be some sort of priority or prioritization. Then when you have two users, they are want to lease a specific resource and both of them are required at the same time, then which one we will get it, it depends upon the share. The one which has high priority will be able to get it rather than the other one. What is the importance of CSP management plan? It is used to segregate no. It is not segregation. A management plan, gentlemen, does not have anything to do with the data traffic. And it's not related to, we mentioned that the management plan, it is the media or the APIs which you have access for, then you will be able to control your network or provision servers, resources, and so on. With the management plan, it will be considered as the GUI where you are able to manage your resources. It can be a web portal, it can be API, whatever the type of the application. But by the end of the day, it will be in a form of APIs or web browser to make resources, configuration, management, and so on. What is the recommended data center temperature and humidity? I mentioned, I gave you numbers yesterday, and I want you to memorize it. Frankly speaking, I cannot remember it, but I think this is the one which is close to the right one. Yes, this is humidity, 40 to 60, 64 to so and so. Yes, you are right. And also, please don't forget, I know you are in America and you have a very height, then this it will be okay, no problem, because I have to tell you, studied in 3 centigrade, but this it will not make any difference. You will attend the exam in America, then it will be okay. What is better, buying or building the CSP data center? Buying, building will take more time. Buying will reduce the time to establish. However, buying needs a justice decision with respect to location involved. Okay. Gentlemen, here we don't have a right answer. Or as we mentioned, buying or building, it depends upon the requirements. Buying, it will be nice when you want to have your own data center up and running immediately. But unfortunately, I will not be able to have all the features which I require. And this it will be, for example, maybe space, maybe capacity, and so on. Then this will not be practical. But the building, this means that you have to do it from scratch, but this it will take time and money. It will take time and money. On the other hand, this it will provide you with all the features which you require to be compliant with any standard or any regulations. Then again here, just I want to highlight a very important point, gentlemen, here. When I'm teaching you this course, my target it's not only to passing the exam. Because I told you, passing the exam, I will not do these exercises for you. If you want to pass the exam, just you want to pass the exam, nothing less, nothing more, this it will be a different training course. We will have the questions from the what's the name, pass for sure or whatever, and we will answer these questions together, and I will tell you why did he choose this answer. But yes, is this the right one? Our target here to understand, and I am quite sure if you will understand, you will pass. It will be very easy to pass the exam. I have no doubts. Then here you may find some questions which may be tricky. You may not find it in the question. It will never tell you which is better or something like that because we are considered both of them are okay. But I want you to understand that these two options, we have some pros and cons. Then I want to highlight this. You have to understand. Then if in the exam I give you a scenario, and this scenario he is caring about the money, he is caring about the time, he is caring about the regulations, so and so, then this means that I have to choose which one is better. If regulations and I want to make 100% compatible, then maybe building it will be better. But if it's a matter of market share and I don't want to lose a market and I want to go immediately to the business and so on, then buying it may be the other. I think we finished the questions. The answers were good. Also, I promised you that we will review some questions which you gave it to me before. I think Prem, he sent some clarifications. Also, Muhammad, he sent some clarification. Again, I will share my desktop when we will be able to see the pages. I remember first question, it was page 97. And I think this was a common question between Mahmoud and Prem. Here we are. Challenges with encryption. Gentlemen, I did not find any contradiction between what did we say? Sorry, I mean encryption with data states. There is no contradiction at all. Let me remind you, what did we say? We said that data at rest, it will be IPsec. Data in transient, it will be HTTPS and TLS and SSL. Data in use, it will be IRM and DRM. Then when we'll come here, we'll find the data in use. It is mentioned data rights. Did I share my screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. As you can see here, we data in use, it is IRM, DRM, as we mentioned. That's fine. Data in transient, TLS, VPN, IPsec, HTTPS. Then it is exactly the same. I am afraid that when you see this IPsec, it confuses you because you said IPsec, it will be used in the DAR, data at rest, not in transient. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, Osama, that's what I think you mentioned, that data at rest, we will use IPsec. And I think in all the books, actually, what I found is that it is saying that IPsec is being used in data in transient. Because in the next line with the data at rest.
Okay. I can understand from where the confusion is coming. Gentlemen, when we are saying that you are doing specific encryption, as in the DAR, it's saying file system and storage level encryption. This is a type of encryption. You are file level, this means that you are encrypting a file. And when we say storage level encryption, this means that you are installing the whole storage. Okay, this is a type of storage encryption. But which technology it will be used to make this encryption? It is the IPsec. You got the point here? When this means that when we say there it is IPsec, yes, it's IPsec, but here we call it file level or storage level. That's fine. I don't have any problem. He will use file level or storage level. That's fine. Because this is the level or storage. This is the type of encryption, but which protocol it will be used or which framework or technology it will be used, the IPsec it will be used. When the IPsec, it will come here and it will be used for the DAR. Then in the exam, if you will find the DAR, you will find IPsec, it will be right. If you will find file level, it will be right. If you will find storage level, it will be right. Again, in data in transient, TLS, SSL, HTTPS, and VPN, I think we don't have any doubts about it. IPsec, it is usually used in, as I told you before, layer 3. When this, it can be used also for transient. When this it's workable. When we are saying that this it will work with one of the states, it does not mean that it will not work with other states. يعني IPsec, I can use it with the data in transient, or I can use it in data at rest. But I don't want to give you the details why I don't like the IPsec in transient, because this it will be somehow technical, and I don't want you to know it at all. This it's not the scope of CCSP. This it can be CISSP. The IPsec, it requires a configuration between two devices. I will not be able to initiate IPsec tunnel between two devices without enable the connectivity between two devices and configuration of the IPsec. Then this it require administration, configuration, troubleshooting, and so on. But with DLS, SSL, HTTPS, and all this stuff, this is on the fly. This it will be on the fly immediately. As soon as you are connecting to the server, it will be run on the fly. Then our explanation, it is right. It is just a matter of naming, and this it will not make any difference. IPsec, it can.
Sir, if you can go to page number 234. The same book, page number 234.
Yeah, I cannot go because now I'm hungry. Just ask the question, no problem.
No, okay, fine. No, if you would have gone to the, because since you're sharing the book, so if you go to page number 234, the definition, I think the section talks about IPsec. It talks very clearly that when there is a movement, it is a protocol for encrypting and authenticating the packets during transmission between two parties. So my first question here is that I agree to your point. IPsec is used for, is a technology used for encryption, but the point is also very clear. IPsec will do it only when there is a kind of a movement from one end to another end. And whereas at data at rest, there is no movement of actually data. It is actually in a database, or actually it is lying in a kind of a file. So I don't understand that why IPsec cannot be used. I don't understand that.
No. This, we are giving you this explanation because we want to show you how it will go through on the network level. But still there are some implementation for IPsec over your machine. There can be. Yeah, there can be. Then again, now, if we are saying that we have this file level and the storage level, I can use on the file level or storage level any method. IPsec, it can be one of them. If you don't want to put the IPsec, don't put it. It's up to you. You don't have any problem. But IPsec still can work as for the DAR.
Okay.
I think there is another point in page 102, and it is related to the before this one, I think there is another one here for the not the LP components. No,
I think, sir, I think you are right. It is there only. Just scroll up. Yes, I think this is the one.
Which one?
With the data address, the DLP solution is installed on the systems holding the data, which can be servers, desktops, workstation, or mobile device. In many instances, this will involve archive data and
And what is the problem of this? We agree about this. We know it very well. This is the DLP is speaking about the DLP solution. We mentioned that the DLP solution, we have multiple components. We have on servers, we have on workstations, in transient, we have on email, we have a browser, and also here he mentioned email and the browser. And we mentioned that it did use this, it will be in form of a client, which it will be installed on a server or on a workstation. What is the question? No, this is not the point. I think Mahmoud, he sent another point here. Yeah, or de-identification. He asked that the tokenization. Yeah, I remember the tokenization. He mentioned that the tokenization, it is not. It's not. It is using random.
It is mentioned in the book as random. So
no, you did not read it properly. In which page?
in the here, yeah, in the first one,
That's
tokenization.
here.
If
If you
utilizing
read it,
random.
okay.
Okay.
This is a page, right?
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah.
Yeah, 100. Okay. Here, the token value is usually generated by the application with a means to map it back to the actual real value. The token value is usually generated by the application with a means to map it back to the actual real value. And this means that the token which it will be added, it should be reflected to its actual value. And then the token value is placed in the data set with the same formatting and requirements of the real data. Here, when he said tokenization is the practice of utilizing a random and opaque token, he does not mean that it is random, that I will not be able to retrieve it back. It means random that it is something, any value, but it should be, it should be a value which I can be retrieved. You get the point here? This is only English language.
No, yeah, I understand that. No, I got it 100%.
Then what is the question?
The question was, it was the tokenization was about masking. In the previous session,
tokenization something and masking something else.
Yeah, I know, but sorry, the question was what is re-identification? And the answer was tokenization, not the masking.
Even if the tokenization it can work.
But
even
here it's very stating that we said data de-identification. I think the question was the last time, what is data de-identification? And the answer was tokenization. So I answer it, it's masking. So that's why I send you the number, the page number.
I think Mahmoud, it was basically the production data which can be used in the lower environment for testing. Is that the question you are referring?
Yes, that we are using what is data identification in development data, I think. And we said the answer was tokenization, but here even in the, I think in the sixth line, it said that you are using masking or data de-identification for development and testing purposes.
Frankly speaking, I cannot understand the conflict here. But anyway, just I want you to understand the data identification, that you have to remove the identification. And we have the identification masking, obfuscation, and anonymization. We will speak about obfuscation and anonymization later, but these are the methods which it will be used.
I think I understood what was Mahmoud's problem statement. So Mahmoud, I think you're going technically by whatever the book is exactly stating the 3 words. So please understand, tokenization is also a part of data obfuscation, one of the tools here. So the thing is that you could also use a masking. You could also use, usually people use, especially when in a lower environment, in case if they're using a production data for development, they will use a masking. They will not use a tokenization because tokenization is a little bit expensive, but it is not as expensive as encryption. Because
Yes,
you have to
Prem, I
have a
understand. I
tokenization
understand
server,
that.
you will have to assign
I
for that
understand, but
field.
the answer was tokenization, not masking. This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I answered masking, but it was tokenization the answer. Do you get me?
No, I got your point. So I think so. One is from a security perspective. I think encryption stands. Encryption again. See, I'll tell you from a security perspective, not involving the cost. Encryption number one. Number two is tokenization. Then you go for masking. But in cost wise, if you go, I think masking is the first because it is the least cost. Then tokenization. Then encryption. So probably I think I do not remember because I think I was not there on Saturday. So maybe the question would have involved probably I think which is more secure. Maybe that is why I think maybe tokenization was considered as the best answer. So you're getting my point. There are in 2 ways we will have to probably dissect the question. Both tools can be used, but one is more secure than the other.
Okay, that's fine. Then let's continue our session now. Today we will continue for module number 3 for the risk assessment and analysis. Of course, this topic, it will be under what are the risks associated with cloud infrastructure and platforms. Risks, gentlemen, it is something very important. Risk assessment, it is very important. Our life as security professionals, it is based on risk. Whatever we are doing in the security controls or devices or whatever, it's based on risk. What are the risks which we may have? And based on these risks, we will choose the correct control which it will protect me against these risks. Okay, then now when we will have cloud infrastructure, you are migrating your data into a cloud infrastructure. What will be the risks? What will be the risks which you may have? Risk number one, it can be the login. You remember what is the login?
Yeah, unable to move from one CSP to another CSP.
You are right. Or from one CSP to on-prem. In some situation, believe it or not, now, gentlemen, we have a lot of scenarios which we have with our customers. We want to go back into the on-prem. Because due to governance, due to compliance, and a lot of other issues. And some situation, it may be application performance. And as we will see in the application module, that we are saying application migration to cloud is not a forklift. It is not something which I can take it like that and throw it in the cloud and then say, I am done. There are other factors which you have to understand very carefully. If these factors, it will help you to migrate the data, or you will be in a trouble if the data is data or application, it will be migrated. The other risk, it will be the governance. And as we mentioned that, of course, here you don't have the full governance over your infrastructure. And now, please don't forget that we are speaking now in this module about infrastructure. This infrastructure security. Then whatever any risks it will be mentioned here, it will be infrastructure. Then the governance here, I don't have any control over the infrastructure. I don't know about the storage. I don't know about the network. I don't know about the servers. I don't know about anything. This it's not under my control. I may have some browsers or APIs which it can do some basic configuration, but I will not have, for example, logging information or operation logging information. This must be mentioned in the CSLA, and this it should be arranged with the cloud service provider. Another thing here, you may have the problem of data privacy and security. You may have information, critical information, and you don't want this information to exposed to the public, because this is not allowed. Then it may be a risk, or the cloud service provider, he may not have enough controls over his network, or he may have some risks as malicious insiders, and so on. Of course, when you will make a risk assessment, you can find more than 100 risks, maybe more even. One of the other controls, it can be the legal and regulatory. As we have here in Saudi Arabia, that data, it cannot be, sensitive data cannot be migrated outside the border of Saudi Arabia. Then this means that, خلاص, I will not be able to do anything even, and this it's really happened. We had some applications which were hosted outside Saudi Arabia, and when the NCA announced the new regulations, we start to make the migration and get back to a local cloud service provider or on-prem. We don't have any other option. Maybe كمان poor reporting. I don't have enough reporting which it can help me to understand the health of my application, health of infrastructure, and so on, because all this information, it's under the control of the cloud service provider. Some people, they are saying, I don't care about this because this is responsibility of cloud service provider, but still there, it may be required by management or whatever. They may need some dashboard or any thing like that. There is another point also, which it can be a major risk, the applications integrity. What do we mean? In some situations, gentlemen, for example, there may be you have a program which is the EMC service disk. This, you can create trouble tickets. You can create some trouble tickets. When you create some trouble tickets, then what will happen? Automatically, the system, it will be integrated with the email server, and it will send an email to the user to tell him that there is a case it's created for you. This integration process, it is not easy. This integration process, it is not easy. You may have some configuration, you may find some firewalls here where you send the email, it will not reach here, a lot of things. Of course, if it's on-prem, this it will be piece of cake, very easy, because I can open the logs of the firewall, or the server, or email server, and I can read what's going on. But if you are trying to do this, if you have this server, it is hosted in a cloud service provider, and this one in the same cloud service provider, you may not be able to have the logs and to understand what's going on. Again, you have to arrange with the cloud service provider. Then if you want to integrate applications together, you will find that the cloud service provider must work very close with you. Then he will be able to show you what are the problems which you may have to help you to isolate the problem. One of the other risks that we mention here, security, and of course, to make it more specific, that to protect confidentiality and integrity of data. If you are not able to protect confidentiality, if there will be some data breaches, if there will be unauthorized access for other tenants or whatever, then this means that you will be in a problem. because your data, it will be breached or it can be changed. Okay, when these are some of risks which you can see in the cloud service provider. Also, there is one other point, which is which we mentioned before, the e-discovery requirements. We mentioned that the e-discovery requirements, it can be if you are searching for a specific pattern, if you are searching for a specific data, if you have, for example, any warrant and you are searching for some data and so on. Unfortunately, if you have any warrant or what we call it, the legal hold, this means that you have a case against you and you need some data, and this data, it should be collected properly and it should kept in custody in a proper way and so on. When this data, it will be proposed to the judge to take an action. In some situation, if we have e-discovery requirements and responsibilities between the cloud service customer and the cloud service provider are not defined well, it will be a crisis. Because now the code, we don't know the cloud service provider. In this case, it is raised against you. They ask you for some data. We want this data to be properly reserved and protected. Then if the cloud service provider, he will not help you to do this exercise on time in the period which is defined by the court or the case, then this means that you will be in a problem. Then in some situation, you may not be able to fulfill the court requirements. And if this happened many times, unfortunately, you will be sentenced to jail, and you have to move your application from the cloud service provider back into the on-prem, or at least the critical data, which it can be used in as evidence in the court. Another risk, which is very important, again, you remember when we said that data removal or data deletion, you want to quit this cloud service provider, you want to move to another one, or you may want to move on-prem. Then you have to make sure that all the data are deleted. You have to make the data to make sure that all the data are deleted. Then the data should be deleted, and where it should be deleted where. In the cloud service provider, we have multiple locations which we have to check. Number one, in the production. Number two, if there is any backup. Number three, in the archive. Number four, in the disaster recovery sites. Because if you removed your application from production and still it is there in the backup, archive, or DR site, then this means that your data is still available there. And this means that you did not remove it. Okay. There is another risk, gentlemen, which it's really very dangerous. And although you will feel that this is very nice to have, but unfortunately it has some pros and cons. What is this? If you are hosting your application in a cloud service provider, then you have a VM, you have a virtual machine. You know what is the virtual machine? What is virtual machine, gentlemen? What is the virtual machine? Because, of course, what is the tangible component of the virtual machine? Do you know? I will not be able to feel a virtual machine because I have a host. The virtualization software, it is telling me I have 10 servers running on this machine. Is this right or wrong? I don't know. I cannot open and check it, or yani, this it's not easy. Right. Then, what is the tangible part of the VM? VM, by the end of the day, it's just an image. File. It's an image. Nothing less, nothing more. Nothing less, nothing more. When you will start up your VM, this image, it will be read by the virtualization software. It has a copy of the operating systems, applications, utilities, tools, and it will run in your machine. That's it. But okay, that's fine. It's something which we like it very much because it will make life very easy. We will be able to utilize our physical hosts instead of having a lot of resources which are not utilized. We will be able to utilize and so on. That's great. But let me ask you a question. I have a physical server here. And I have a VM here. Suppose that I am a hacker and I want to infect the physical server by malicious software. Which is easier, to infect the VM or the physical server with the malicious software, and why?
Obviously, VM is actually, you can infect the VM actually easier than the physical server.
Why?
Because VM, as you said, that it is in the form of an image. And I can always affect an image, and thereby I can affect the VM also. But I think for a physical server, I need to have a kind of an access actually, which I may not have, to go to the physical server room and then actually inject. It may not be done virtually, sitting over at some part of the globe. But in a VM, if I can have an access somehow, I can actually corrupt the VM.
Okay, it's a good answer, but I have one comment here. You are totally right. Regarding the VM, you are totally right, because this VM, it can be infected, not the machine itself, but the image itself. Then even if the server is down, still it can be infected. Even if the server is down, still it can be infected. Why? Because if I'm able to infect the image which is stored on the object storage, then this means that when it will be uploaded into the server, it is infected. But the physical server, first of all, I must have an access for it. It is not necessary that this it will be physical access. It can be remotely. It can be remotely. If you want to violate any server, you can run whatever any software, or you can send the software where it can be installed on this machine and open a backdoor or whatever. This is not our target, but the machine, it can be infected online or physically or logically. But the point here, the machine must be up and running. Can we infect a server if it's down?
No,
Physical server?
yeah, I got the point now. Physical server, if it's turned off, you cannot infect it. But in a
You cannot
VM,
infect it. And in some situations, when we are having a crisis and we are saying that we are not understanding what's going on, then we are saying disconnect the server. Although this, it's not recommended by the incident response team, because they want to understand what's going on, especially for forensics teams. But if you will disconnect the server, it will be disconnected. Khalas, it's over. I don't have any problem. Otherwise, the image, it will not be infected. But here, if the image it's infected, khalas, it's over. Then the server, it will be infected. Then it is very important to understand that although virtualization is great, but again, it has some risks where these files, it can be infected on the storage. Another point, it is very important, which again, it can be a question in the exam. What is it? Suppose that, gentlemen, Microsoft, you have, say, 4,000 VMs. And you are a cloud service provider. And the cloud service provider, you will find that usually all these servers, it can be up and running. You don't have something called night and morning, because if it's night in Saudi Arabia, then it will be the morning in America. Then all the locations, usually all the international cloud service providers, you will find them working 24/7. Now, Microsoft, they mentioned that we have a very critical image. We want all of you to upload this image. Then, if you want to upload all the image on the 4,000 VMs, this it will take some time, and this it will affect the operations. This it will take some time, and it will affect the operations, because if you want to upload it, this it may take 10 minutes or whatever, then it can load the file, then the server, this means that the server, it will be a service, it will be stopped, load the application, maybe the fix, it may take 10 minutes, then the server, it will start, then it will be able to run. Then this means that it will take almost 15 minutes. Then you will be able to run the server. What is the alternative? Do you have an idea how we can fix or minimize this time for loading the fix or the patch? Usually, the cloud service provider, gentlemen, what they will do, they will update the images. They will update the images. They will not touch your VM at all, but they will update the images. Then, if you have 4,000 VM, this means that you have 4,000 image on the objects. When I have to update this, I will delete this one and put the new one with the same name, with the same ID, whatever. And I will mention this to my customers, please just restart the machine, only restart the machine. Then when it restart, it will not take the old one, it will take the new one, then where the fix it's already up. And this is one of the techniques which it is used in loading the patches, fixes, or whatever. In some other situation, if you have whatever, any tools for security tools, looking tools, you want to update some looking security, for example, security anti-malware, and all these updates, it can go through this process. Okay. These are the risks which are related to the risk, the infrastructure. These are infrastructure and application and everything. Okay, we have other risks. We have other risks which related to virtualization.
Sir, I have a question here.
Hmm.
On the virtual image, as we saw, I think a couple of minutes ago, you said the risks of having the virtual image. Now, the thing is that how do we protect from that risk? Can we encrypt? I mean to say, how do we protect the virtual images? The images.
Okay, that's a good question. Usually, they are storing the, the cloud service providers, they are storing the images on an object storage. Then object storage, it will not allow any data to be written over these files for some specific time. But of course, this is not a workable solution for cloud service provider, because if you want to update it, you will not be able. Then what we can do? It will be the normal security controls. What are they? Number one, encryption. You have to encrypt the data. Number two, you have to isolate whatever any images you have for VMs in a secure zone, which it does not have any access to users at all. Only the servers it will be access these images. You must enable auditing and logging, and configure the SIM that if there is any variations in these files, because usually these files, how we can know that we are changed or not? We will do it by the CRC or by the hashing. Then you can configure your SIM or your security devices if there is any variation in the CRC or in variation in the hashing. Usually it would be used by hashing. When this means that we have a problem here and we have to take care because these files are changed. If they are changed because you know that we are changed by you, that's fine. Then this it will be a false positive. If it's not, then it will give you an indication that it is changed. You can take it offline, install it on one of machine, and check what are the additional components which are added. Then, as recapping, you can follow the encryption, put it in isolated separate zone, which is not accessed by any users at all. Enable logging, auditing, and if you are able to configure the SIM solution for monitoring any changes for the file, this it will be a great option. Okay.
So, sir, on the encryption which you said now, will it follow the same type of encryption the way you encrypt a kind of a data file?
Yes, here it will be a data file, or it can be storage as well. But of course here, storage, it will not work here. Storage, it will not work. Why? Because if you have a storage and you said that I will make a file level or a storage level. A storage level, you will encrypt all the storage and you can decrypt all the storage. Yani this it will be some type of blocks. Yani you are do it in blocks. But the file here it will be better because even as a storage it will have one single key. But if the file, this means that each file it has its own key because the VMs are different. Then this means the file here it will be more reasonable and more secure. And if you will do it on a file level, it will be of course better or more secure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
The second type of risks which we have, it will be the virtualization. We spoke about this before, gentlemen, about the virtualization, and we mentioned that just to draw one diagram to remind you. This, let's say it is host 1, this is host 2. I have here the hypervisor, and here we have the hypervisor, and both are connected together. Then VMs can migrate from one to other. We mentioned that if the hypervisor it is compromised, then it can affect all the VMs, right? Then this is number one. If the hypervisor is compromised, it can affect all the VMs under its responsibility. Also, if one of the VMs it's compromised, it can affect the other VMs. And the example which I gave it to you before, that if there is any hacker and this hacker, he was acting as a normal user and he released one VM and he was able to install some applications or processes, which it will do a buffer overflow, it will corrupt the memory, and of course in this case it will be the physical memory. Then you will be able to dump all the data in the physical memory of the host, and this means that all the data for the other tenants. The other option, if you have this relation, then the hypervisor, if the hypervisor is compromised, it can affect the other hypervisor or affect other VMs on the other hypervisor. How we can protect? Usually take it as a rule. You have to work very close with the manufacturer to tell you how to protect your infrastructure. Because they will tell you, yes, hypervisor, we know that there is a problem here, we discover it, then you have to load this patch and so on. There are other solutions which it's not related to the product. For example, if you have one server here, there's a service desk, and you have one email here, as we mentioned, we are integrated together. Then if there is any data, it's moved from this server and that server, I can put here IBS or IDS, and I can monitor the traffic. It is a physical machine. I can monitor the traffic. And if there is any attack, I will inform the IBS to drop the connection. Then I protect. But how we can do it in virtual environment? If I have VMs here, and all the VMs are on the same host, then the data, we are on the same host. How can I install a VM? Sorry, I can install IBS or IDS. This is not easy. How can I install a physical device, IBS or IDS? Fortunately, the security devices manufacturer, they found a solution for this, that you are able to install all these security machines in a form of virtual image. Then now, if I have a host and I have some VMs, and the data it's moved from 1 to 2, then I can rent one VM and put here IBS image, and I will instruct this VM to send the data not to the other VM, first to IBS, and the IBS it will be able to send it to the other VM. And VMs will not be able to communicate together. VMs it will communicate through the IBS image, which is installed on one of the servers. Then this means that we will be able to check it, we will be able to audit it, we will be able to scan it, and so on. All the functions which we can do it in a physical security, in physical data center, we can do it again on the image or the VM's data centers. Okay. Now we spoke about two different types of risks: virtualization risks and the infrastructure risks. These are the virtualization. These are the infrastructure risks, and these are the virtualization risks. Of course, the question which you can ask now, how we can protect our infrastructure against these risks? How we can make the risk mitigation. The risk mitigation here, it is can be used, number one, by create base image for the servers. This base image, it's considered as the image which has the minimum requirements of security. Minimum requirements of security. For example, you are saying patches must be uploaded, the antivirus software must be updated, the logging, it must be enabled, the administrator account, it should be renamed, and so on. Whatever all these security controls which you think that this it will be good for protecting the server, you can do it and make it as an image. Then when the user, he will automatically provision a server, he will take this base image loaded, and this page it's hardened and scanned. Also, it is very important patching and updating. Of course, this it's not under your control. If it's SaaS, for example, it will be under the control of the cloud service provider. But again, you have to work with the cloud service provider to make sure that he is applying the updating and patching. This is very important because it may have some problems. And as we explained, patching and updating, it will be very practical if you update the baseline image. If you create new baseline image. If you update new baseline image, this it will be very easy. Then all what you have to mention to your the customer, please restart the server. Then when he starts the server, he will take the image from the other the updated server, and he will be able to load it the new one, which is more secure, and you don't have any problems against it. Okay. We have to speak about the physical environment protection, but I think it will be better if we can have our break now. Then we will continue the session. Do you have any questions before taking our break?
So, sir, on this patching, also we will follow the same steps, like the cloud service provider will follow the same steps, the way like when he's changing the VM images, right?
What do you mean? Yeah, what is the same steps? What are these steps you mean?
I mean to say, suppose if the cloud service provider has got, I think, customers who are having, let us say, 40,000 VMs are actually running by the cloud service provider. I mean, it's across various customers. So suppose if you have to apply a security patch, I think the way like you were explaining earlier, I think he will do the same thing. So he's just going to replace the images for all those 40,000 VMs.
Yes, you are right. And this it will be piece of cake. يعني 40,000 يعني this it will take few minutes because it's just one image and you will copy it. Okay. Any other questions?
Sir, one question which I wanted to ask earlier. So is there, I mean, we were talking about the virtual machine virtualization risks. So is there a possibility, or has it happened actually in real life, whether when a hypervisor itself has been attacked in the cloud service provider's environment? So I mean, say in case if the hypervisor gets attacked, it is definitely going to attack all the VMs, right?
Yes.
So has it happened?
For myself, I did not hear something like that. But this does not mean that it never happened, because of course I'm not aware about everything happening. But you know, something like that, it will be very critical, and you must hear about it. But I did not hear anything like that. Especially most of the cloud service providers, you will find that they are using the VMware or the Linux version of which is called KVM, or I cannot remember its name now. And these are rigid and stable products. But if it happened, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not sure. I did not hear this before.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, then we will have our break. Today, gentlemen, if you don't mind. We were speaking about the risks in the infrastructure, in the virtualization, and we mentioned that, of course, if we are speaking about the risks, we have to speak about the mitigation, and we mentioned that we have to protect the base images. We have to create a baseline images. This can be stored in a secure area, and it can be used to update the servers without efforts in the time and in the operations. Also, we have another important physical protection, the physical and the environment protection. And when we are saying physical and the environment, this means that we are meaning the cloud service provider data center and its surroundings. Yani if we consider that this is the data center, and of course this data center, it is built in or it is located inside a building, then this means that we have to provide some protections and security measures for this environment for the data center. Number one, of course, fences. You must have fences around the data center. Fences, it will be very important, and of course, according to the standards, it must be 180 or 2 meters, I think, 2 meters height. You must have lighting. These lightings, it should be here around the building, because of course the lights, it will be considered as the trend, or it will minimize the effect of any attack, because if it's dark, then anyone, he can do anything and you will not be able to discover it. But if there is any lights, this, it will not be easy to jump over the fence or try to penetrate the fence or whatever. Also, you must have a cameras, or which we call it CCTV, closed circuit televisions, which it can recording. You can have motion detection if there is any motion, and this motion detection and the CCTV, it can outside and it can inside the data center. Then if there is any movement inside the data center, when this motion detection, it can discover it and give you a warning when you will check who is trying to penetrate the data center or the intruders in the data center. It is very important also to have vehicles access control. And when we say vehicle access control, this mainly we are saying in two different meanings. You know, gentlemen, if you have any police stations or any government station, and you will find barriers in front, and this, it will be concrete barriers in front of the building. What is the function of these barriers in front of the building? Do you have any idea?
They are more like the bollards, right?
Sorry?
You mean to say the bollards which are there in front of the building?
Yes, yes. This protect the building against any car attack. If there is any car attack, this, it will protect the building. And I think in an Arabian country, there was a camp, and there was one car. They have TNT and explosives inside the car. They penetrate the gate and go inside, and they blow the car in the compound. And this, it was a crisis at that time, and it was mentioned in the news. Then these barriers and bollards, we will protect the against the these types of attacks. Also, it is very important to have guards, personal guards, because the personal guards, we will have the ability to stop any intruder, ask him what you are doing, why you are here, and so on. This, it will be very important. You must have a card access. Don't let anyone to enter the data center without any access control, physical access control. It can be card access control, or it can be biometrics, whatever the type of the controls. These are the physical and environment protection for the building, and for the data center, the ground of the data center. Inside the data center, we have to follow other protection. What are these protection? It will be cages, inside the cages. These cages, it will be a locked location where you can put all your equipments, and it will be locked and it will be protected. This it will be considered as segmentation or physical segmentation. It will be segmentation. Also, you have to provide redundancy, as we mentioned before, the redundancy for the power and the AC. These are very important, because if these are if we are affected by the data centers, we will, I mean the redundancy inside the data center, then this it will be a problem and you will not be able to maintain your service and operation. There is another one important point, gentlemen, which we call it the background checks. Do you know what is the background checks? Any idea?
Yeah, basically you try to whoever are the employees, you try to do a kind of a criminal check, and then I mean to say whether they have been involved with any particular crimes or anything else. So you basically do a kind of an pre-employment screening types.
That's right. That's right. This is the right definition. Also, we found that this screening, it will be very helpful in other tasks, not only for criminals. Actually, it is for criminals, and if the employee have any bad history in hacking activities or whatever. But in some other situations, gentlemen, I may work in Apple, for example, and I know that Google, they will announce very soon some mobiles which it may affect my market share and take part of this market share. And I want to know the blueprints of these devices before it's announced in the market. Then I will take one of my employees and I will make an act that I terminate him and he is searching for another job. When if he is hired in Apple, then this means in Google, for example, then this means that he will be able to capture all these blueprints and he can share it with me and so on. Then there are some situations where this training it will be very useful and interesting. Okay, that's good. We have another, we spoke about the physical and the environment protection. We spoke about physical and environment protection. Now we will speak about the system storage and communication protection. System storage and communication protection. Unfortunately, for the system storage and communication protection, we have to depend, of course, as we mentioned, about the SLA. Because the cloud provider, he is responsible for the underlying hardware and the network. And we have to take in our consideration the protection of our data. And again, when we speak about the data, we have to think about the data into 3 different states. Data at rest, where we have to protect it by using the encryption, and data in transient, where we have to use, again, the encryption in form TLS, SSL, HTTPS, IPsec. It depends upon the type of the data. And data in use, where we have to protect, use the API, secure APIs, IRM, DRM, and so on. These are the different type of storage. Of course, you may ask, what's my role in this? What can I do here? not under my control. Of course, data, okay, I can put it in the SLA. I have to mention to the cloud service provider and the SLA, please, if the data is addressed, it should be encrypted. If it's transit, when it's moved from your network to anything, to any other location, you have to encrypt it using TLS version 2 or the latest version. If it's in use, you have to provide the secure APIs, and this it can be controlled. But what about the others? The others, it should just to evaluate the cloud service provider and ask him if he has the mandatory or the basic security control. It's not under your protection, but you have to ask about these things to make sure that your environment is secure. As we mentioned, this will be considered as what? Due diligence. It will be considered as due diligence. Okay, we spoke about systems and storage protection, which is under the control of the cloud service provider. Then we will speak about virtualization protection. When we speak about virtualization protection, gentlemen, first thing we have to think about is the management plan. Management plan, this is soft, very important. It is the interface between the user and the hardware, where he can provision servers, he can deprovision servers, he can add servers, he can remove servers or resources, and so on. This it will be very important. And as we mentioned, that this it will be in the form of APIs, or it can be a web browser. It depends upon the service which the cloud service provider he will be able to provide it. Also, it is very important in virtualization that to have some sort of role-based authentication or access control. Do you know what is role-based access control?
Role-based access control is basically based on the hierarchy of in the organizational hierarchy. What is your particular role? You're being given a kind of, I think it is for privileged users and access.
Okay.
So sysadmin will have more access. I think I mean, a user or a developer will have a lower access. According to his role, the access would be provided.
Okay, this means that we have the role, it should depend upon the job of the user. If the user, for example, he is administrator, then he have full access. But if he is a power user, then he may have only read. Or it may be operator, then he may have read and change, and so on. Then there is no need every time I will create a user to define what are the rights he should have. In this case, only to define the role, and automatically this role, it will be assigned the default permissions. And this is very important. This is one of the requirements in many of the standards. One of the requirements in many of the standards. Okay. Also, it is very important, as we mentioned, to enable the logging, detailed logging. And this logging, as we mentioned yesterday, it should be a centralized location. It should be isolated. You must have some way to study these logs and check if there is any attack happened, and so on, as we mentioned yesterday. And by the way, this is very important for regulations and laws to be compliant. You have to enable logging and auditing. Logging, it's not enough, because some people are saying, yes, we have audit, we have detailed audit, I have 1 terabyte audit. Okay, so do you have a check on this audit? Do you open this audit and audit it? This, I mean logging and audit? No. Then if there is any attack, how you will know? Then this means that logging, it will not be enough. It should be logging and auditing of the logging. This, it will be very important. And again, just to remind you, as we mentioned yesterday, it is very important that these logs, it will be centralized. where this it will go to a centralized storage. This storage or server, it will be isolated from the network, and no one will be able to access this storage rather than the administrators. Okay. Another important thing to follow the trust zones, or in some other words, we call it segmentation. Because these trust zones, I don't like it anymore now, because the new concept or new architecture, it is called the ZTA, zero trust architecture, zero trust architecture. When this means that I don't have anything called trusted, even if it's someone he is sitting inside the network, again, he is not a trusted. Then it is better to have multiple zones. And of course, the popular zones, which all of us know it, that if you have here an internet and you have here a router, you have here a firewall, and you have here another firewall, and you may have here the data center, and here you have workstations. These are the zones. You have here this called external zone, and it is not trustable. You have here the DMZ, and DMZ, this is the military area, which you can add servers in this zone, which it is accessed from internal network and from external network, from the internal zone and external zone at the same time. And you will have here the internal, or not like that. This, it can be the user zone. You'll have grouping all the users here. And finally, you'll have this, the data center zone, which is more secure, and you will have a lot of IPS, firewalls, so on and so on. What is the benefit of these zones? Usually, these zones, the traffic will not be able to move from one zone to another zone without passing by security checks and controls. It may be a firewall, maybe next generation firewall, where it has a firewall, it has IPS, it has anti-malware, it has web filtering. All these services, it can be installed on the next generation firewall, or it can be installed on separate devices, and this, it will be considered as a good type of protection for your network. There is another concept for administration. Yesterday, we mentioned one important concept, which is OOP. Do you remember this? Out of band. And we said that the administration or the management network, it will be a separate physical network where it has its own physical connections with a dedicated switch. Here we will have another definition for management, which we call it to use VPN, this one, and this it's secure solution, or to use something called jump server. What is a jump server? Jump server here, gentlemen, as you can see in this diagram, which we have it here, you will have one server here. It has two network interface card, or it may have only one interface card connected here in the DMZ. And you will have all the security controls which you can have on this server. You will have host firewall, you will have anti-malware, you will have white listing for applications. Just imagine whatever any device, any controls or security controls approved in your organization, you can use it. What is the benefit of this server? This server, it will be considered as an administration tool. In some situation, you may need to make administration for your server remotely from your home or from any other location. Then it is nonsense that you will give the user access for all the servers here. It's nonsense to give them servers access to servers here. These servers must be, as we agree, totally isolated from the network. or from the internet, I mean, sorry, I say from the internet. Then, what we have to do to allow user to access this server or administrator to access it from outside. Number one, to enable VPN. When he will enable VPN, when we enable VPN, this means that he is a part of the internal network. Then he will be able to access these servers for administration. Otherwise, he will be able, if he is sitting, let's say here, he will be able to access this server only. He will be able to access this server only. And this server, it has the permission to access the other servers. Why? Because this server, as I told you, it is already protected. This server, it's already protected with all the security controls. When we make sure that this server, it is the best designed security, when we are in safe side, when this server is protected, the user will come from the outside into this server, and this server, it has a permission to access the server itself for the administration. This, which we call it jump server. This, which we call it jump server. And this is, again, a very important concept you have to understand. When the administration here, it can be using two different techniques. The VPN, because if you are connected to VPN, then this means that you are a member of the internal network, or the jump server, which it is considered for the administration or remote administration of internal resources. Any questions? Are you still there?
Yep.
I am feeling that you are sleepy today.
No, Sima. Oh,
No, it is Osama. This is a little heavy content. So just trying to digest it.
Right, okay. Let's have 10 minutes break. If it's complicated, let's have a 10 minutes break.
Yes.
Then we will continue it. No problem.
yeah. In that case, I will drop this, Sama. I'll catch up with the recording. Thank you.
Mr. Osama,
Aywa?
Mohammed is here. In the meanwhile, can I highlight the question I was talking about? Is it fine, or we can have a break?
La, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so 1 minute. I'm just
now we will continue a very important topic for the cloud service providers or cloud infrastructure, which is identification, authentication, and authorization. Before going further, just I want to ask you, what is the difference between these three terminologies?
Identification is basically just to identify the user, so which is by the user ID. Authentication is basically once you give the password, and then the system exactly identifies that, okay, this is Prem, and he is being confirmed that he has confirmed his identity. it will authenticate, that means it will allow you. Authorization is basically which all applications or which all data and information systems which you are authorized to do it, it will be given, it will be provided to you.
Okay, usually I like to define it in a very simple way. Identification means who are you? Authentication, prove your identity. Sorry, authorization, what you are allowed to do. This is very simple like that. This is very simple like that. Identification, who are you? When I am Osam. Okay, good. Prove that you are Osam. Then I can prove it by username, password, so and so. Then the system, it will tell me, yes, you are Osama, and you have the permission to use these specific resources. Okay. When we are speaking about the authentication, authorization, and accounting, we will speak about something called federation. Did you hear about this before?
Yes.
What is federation?
Federation is a mechanism wherein the same credentials can be utilized in another application or another system, so that you don't have to remember multiple, you don't have to maintain multiple identities and passwords.
And where is the location of these credentials?
That is with one with the identity provider. I mean, it's a kind of a centralized place. I'm just trying to give you an example. If I go to a particular, I have a Gmail account, Prem, with my password, and let us say I go to a particular website like booking.com to book a flight. I don't have to create a credential actually for that particular website. I can use my Google's user ID and password to book my tickets in booking.com. So basically, so here it is basically like, or there could be one more site wherein again I can use my Google's credentials, and I can use it and utilize that particular application or that services. So here Google is the kind of an identity provider which is maintaining my Gmail ID and my password, and then it authenticates. So the booking.com.
How two servers for two independent companies will communicate with each other?
Booking.com will, what it will do is that Booking.com will communicate to Google to check whether the credentials are correct. Once Google says yes, I think Booking.com will allow me. It'll have me as identified person, and then allow me for booking.
Okay, this is a good explanation. Just I want to add some more information. Let's take the same example which Prem he gave it to us, that I have here google.com, and I have a specific account. Now I want to communicate with booking.com. Booking.com, when they install their servers, they will say, okay, gentlemen, we want to integrate our authentication or access control system with the Google system. And this usually you all see it when you will open whatever any site, it will tell you use Facebook account or Google account or Apple account, right? This is we all see it every day in our operations. Then what we will do, we will configure here something called federation. This federation that when the user will provide a username, anything at gmail.com, the authentication server here, it will know that this gmail.com, it is not hosted on this server, but there is a connection between this server and that one. Then it will say, yeah, gmail.com, it is osamy@gmail.com, and its password is XYZW123. Then it will take this information, username and password, send it to server. Is it right? Yes, it is right. Then if it's right, then it will allow me to access the service on booking.com. This the federation. What is the benefit of federation? That you will have a single username and password. And usually, gentlemen, this it can be used in big organization where, for example, suppose that you have your organization here. This is your organization where you have your office and you have your username and password here. And your organization, they said that we will have another service on cloud service provider 1, and they create username and password again. And in the future, they are expecting to increase it into 2 or maybe 10 services. Then this means that I will have a different username and password in each one. Of course, this does not make any sense. Why? What will happen? In some situation, users, they are act smart, they act, but we are not. We will say, okay, with this username and the password, I will use the same username and password here and here and here and everywhere. Anywhere they will ask me for username and password, I will use it. Okay, that's fine, but if it's compromised, then this means that you have to rotate for all these servers and change the password, otherwise you will be in a trouble. Then, what is the solution here? The solution here, we will tell you, we will have the Active Directory here or the LDAP server where the username and password is saved. And we will configure the federation in these locations. Then when you log in and the authentication servers here, we will know that you are not hosted by this server, then we will communicate with the proper server and we will check your identity and your username and password. We have some terminology here. It is very important to know this terminology. And usually the identification, we will use the concept of user. Of course, this user which it will ask for accessing a data. This is a user which want to access the data. We have identity provider. This is the entity which is have your user credentials, and relaying party, this which is provide the service. Then in the example which was given by Prem, who is the user?
I am the user. Prem
Yes,
is the user.
Prem is the user. Who is the identity provider?
Google.
And who is the relaying party?
Booking.com.
Yes. Okay. This the federation.
So, sir, oh, 1 second. If you go back to the previous slide, sorry, I'm saying previous drawing board, then how different is this between a single sign-on?
Yeah, single sign-on is totally different. Forget about single sign-on now. We will speak about later. Forget it about it now.
Okay.
The identification, this, who is the user? Who is the user? And of course, with the cloud service providers, we are using, gentlemen, the standard technology. We agreed that the user credentials for authentication, authorization, accounting, and all these things, or for access control, it is stored on LDAP server. The standard or the open methodology for the identification, authentication, and all this stuff, we have Open ID, and we will have all authentication standards. These are standards which are used for authentication and authentication. We will use one protocol which is very, very popular protocols when you will reach to the cloud service providers and maybe other applications, not only cloud service providers, which is called SAML. SAML, it has the same concept of federation. We have user, we have identity provider, and we have relaying party. User who asks for authentication, identity provider which is provide the information for authentication, and relaying party who are providing the service. I think we will speak about this later in other modules. But at least now we have to understand that the identification, the user it can be stored in LDAP, or it is stored in LDAP, and the protocol which is used for identification, it is a SAML, and SAML it's not also for authentication, identification, authorization, and so on. Okay. The other concept, it is the authentication. And the authentication with who is the user. Prove your identity. Prove your identity. This prove identity, it can be done by username and password, this combination of username and password, or it can be done by something you have, which it can be email or SMS or token, hardware token, or something you are, which is biometrics, or any mix of these methods, multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication. It is very important to remember the multi-factor authentication in the exam. It is very important to remember the multi-factor concept in the exam. You will see a lot of questions about multi-factor authentication, because this is very important, and usually it is used with high secure method. And if you can remember, when we explained the scenario for accessing your bank account, when you are typing your username and password, then it will send you one-time password into your mobile, then you have to type this one. And of course, this is some sort of something you know and something you have. You have is the mobile. It is the mobile. Okay. The other topic is the authorization. What you are allowed to do on the network. What you are allowed to do on the network. And of course, this it depends upon the your permissions. And of course, it can be granular. Permissions here, the authorization permissions, it can be assigned based on something called attributes. It's called attributes. For example, when you are defining a user, you are defining a lot of attributes: username, password, phone number, division, location, geolocation, email, a lot of information. You can say, for example, whatever any user who is from the financial department, and you have an attribute called department, from financial department, he is allowed to access specific financial applications. When here authorizations is built on an attribute, or as we mentioned earlier, we can have a rule-based system by your rule. When you assign a specific rule, then automatically it will be assigned a permission for you, and so on. Then the authentication, it depends upon the nature of the application and how you are doing these exercises. Okay, any questions?
Sir, I'm a bit confused actually between the roles of OpenID, OAuth, and SAML. Where exactly in which
forget about this now. We will speak about SAML and all these protocols in more details in the other modules. Here we just want to tell you that it will be under SAML and all this stuff. But forget about it right now. We will discuss this in more details later. in module
Okay,
number
okay.
6.
Okay, okay, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we have the audit module. I don't know if we'll be able to finalize it now. No, we will not. No, we will not.
So, Osama, I have a quick question over here. Now we are almost in the completion of the domain 3. So I think at this pace, do you foresee that we will complete it by the 3rd week of February? Then what exactly is the plan? I just wanted to understand your plan also, so that I can we can actually kind of correlate with towards our journey of the preparation.
I can answer this question next week.
Okay.
Now I have a good base. There are some modules which we finished quicker than what I'm expecting, and we have another modules which we spent some more time, more than the planned ones. I need to review my schedule. I was planning to do this after this week, and by end of this week, during the weekend. Then on Saturday, I can answer this. But as we mentioned, if you take it as an average, we are in week number 3, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And almost we done 3 modules, and this is a good pace. Yani even I don't want to say that each module it will take 1 week, because I know that there are other modules which it may take more, but we can say that it will be between 2.5 months and 3 months.
Okay. Sir, if you may allow me to share my screen, I have one thing to be which I found out yesterday. Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. So this is the CCSP objectives from the ISC Square. So they have actually introduced one topic called as keys, secrets, and certificate management, which is, I think we did not cover, because even AIO also does not cover that particular topic, which I checked yesterday. Yes, we checked this. It is not there. So this,
I don't know about this. I did not hear about it. Anyway, let me check it.
yeah. So this is the official ISC Square learning objectives. So I just saw that yes, we spoke about keys, but then there I think this is all the green ones which I've highlighted are the new topics which have been added in August 2022. So I saw certain new topics like secrets.
Data flows, this it's not an issue, because this is data in transient. But keys, secrets, and certificates management, this will be totally different, because here he started to speak about VPN in details. And about the keys, we spoke about the key and key management, but secrets, we did not speak about it. Certificates management, we did not speak about it.
Yes. Why? And even the AIO book also, what I found, sir, I think it does not talk about it. So I think Daniel Carter in this book has missed it completely from the learning objective. So I wanted to point out this to you.
It's not an issue. This it can be covered within, we need 1 hour. I think it will be better to keep all these topics aside, because I don't want to confuse you by different things. But we will keep by end of the course 1 session, let's say 1 day. We will cover all these points which may be new, or you don't understand it from the one which we explained before, and so on. Then we can cover all these topics after that.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Osama sir, I was also having one question.
Sure.
So I mean, with the pace which we are doing and with the syllabus which we are going across, so do you think there would be good amount of time for us to review all together the questions in while meeting in the calls?
No, This it's not covered in this. I have another course where, as I told you before, in CCSP or any certificate, non-CCSP only, in any certificate, I have two different courses. First course is the one which we are working on it right now. Another course where we are going through the questions.
Oh, okay.
Only the questions. Yani I will not open all in one or any book or any slides or whatever. It's not my target at all. We will open the questions and we will work on it. When we will open the question, hey, answer the question, you will answer it. If it's right, okay. If it's wrong, we will say why it's wrong. If it's right, why it's right, and so on. Then this, it will be a separate course. But unfortunately, I don't have a schedule for it right now. If you are interested and you want to do it, we can arrange it later. But let's finish this one first to check if we need it or not.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're most welcome. I don't know. My advice, gentlemen, that this exercise, if you do it on your own, it will be better than have it in a course, because you will try to understand everything in your own. Yani now I am quite sure that you are a little bit confused between masking and tokenization and all this stuff. Why? Because I told you something and you read other thing. You are not able to make both of them the same concept. Although they are all of them the same concept, but you are not able to take it as a same concept. Then this, it will confuse you. But if you will read the book alone, you as a person alone, there will be no confusion, because there is no other opinion or no other way to tell you the information, which it may cause some confusion for you. But by the end of the day, to have another course or don't have another course, this it's very early to speak about this, and I prefer to postpone this discussion to after we finish this course, inshallah.
Okay.
Any other questions or clarifications? Okay. Thank you very much for your time, and see you next week. Brem, by the way, I sent on the group the difference between the different data center tiers.
Yes, I saw that. I saw that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Almost well. Okay. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your patience.